Night school.
Night school.
Welcome, Mitch.
I'm glad to be here again.
You're talking about 4,000 weeks? Why?
This left an impact on me. So,
This book was good.
this book was great.
When I read this, it was good.
Man, this left such an impact on me that I can't even tell you. I can't even begin to tell you.
Well, if it was totally beyond words, then we'll just have to sit here in graceful, grateful silence for an hour.
And then it's just going to be like, guys, check out the book.
Yeah,
Read it for
skip to
yourself.
59 minutes and 30 seconds if you want to hear our recommendation. The rest is just going to be contemplative quiet.
All right. Let's get into this, dude. Okay, so the book starts. Let me go into the table of contents. I don't know, dude. Should we start like that, or how do you want to do it?
I would love to start by, if I can use this as an excuse to get free good advice from you, I'll tell you that I've really had trouble with grappling with my finitude and limitation in the sense that there are so many things I'm interested in and I have to pick a lane. I don't want to be super rigid about picking one lane and be like a hyper specialist who like a tool with one function. But I do need to narrow down. And like me and Raleigh do this podcast because we have lots of different interests, and this is kind of an outlet to explore that. But I'm almost 30. I don't have an established, solid, like consistent career. I've done a lot of different things, too many different things. And I don't know how to say, it's hard for me to say no. It's easy to say yes to everything, but it's hard to say yes to a small set of things and say no to everything else and subjectively gauge what's a good amount of stuff to say yes to so that I'm reasonably well-rounded but also focused enough. How the hell do I measure that and quantify that?
Hey, Travis,
So-
I probably should have thought of this before we started, but
Yeah.
can I get like a notepad or something?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a
have
pen
anything
right
like that?
here, so if Evan finds paper, then you're set. So,
That'd be sick.
yeah, what I'm curious to know, dude, is like, what did you learn from this book about how to become comfortable with only accomplishing a small set of things well?
Okay.
You know what I
Let's
mean?
start there. So, in your previous, the last night school, you talked about Brian Weiss, and something that you said was, I was listening to it.
You're set.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate that, Evan.
Evan Blodgett.
Evan's the best. So, I was listening to it on times 2 speed, and you said something that stayed in my ear. And I think you were talking about the period of time after you die, but before you go into the next life in Brian's view
Yeah,
of
according to his framework.
reincarnation, right?
Yeah.
Where these entities that exist in that time and space don't see things as like, they don't see like, you just came out of this life. What kind of progress did you make? Right? They don't see it like that. They see it like you just were. And the apple doesn't fall because of gravity. The apple falls just because that's the way it goes. Like, and it, like you were kind of talking about that, how these entities don't see the laws of physics and time like we do. It just is what it is. And there's no like, I don't know how to say it. There's no questioning it, but it just is what it is. And that made me, so this book brings up that point in a sense that it brings up the point on how people before, like right now we're organized like pretty intensely. I think, what is it? I think it's Greenland or Greenwich or something like that has like sets the time, right? And then from there, everybody else sets their clocks, right? And then so we're all connected in that way for anybody who uses a clock, which is almost everybody. You know, it's like, and so because of that, then we set up like, now we have seconds, minutes, days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, right? And so then we see ourselves through this lens of time. But the thing is that we came up with it. Like, we're the ones that are setting these frames. And so you're saying, I'm 30 years old or whatever. I'm at this point in my life, and I feel like I can't settle down, and I feel like I need to because I'm running out of time to do something meaningful, and I feel like maybe like I haven't done the most meaningful thing that there is to do for me, right? And I think part of that and I think Oliver makes this claim too, because Oliver says that you're not alone. That, like, even I feel that, right?
Even you.
Even me.
And
even me.
You're like the
and I read the book.
Pinnacle of success.
I read the book already. And he told me the solution, and I still feel like that, you know?
Yeah.
And sorry, that threw me off. But
I won't make any more jokes.
That's all right.
For the rest of the
now
episode.
I'm insecure now.
Yeah. My bad. So I think that I'm supposed to be at a certain place by 30 because I have all these images of what a 30-year-old man is supposed to be that I'm like comparing myself to.
And also you're conceptualizing like, oh, we have all this data about how people live to 83, or like the average life age of an American citizen is 83. So it's like, oh, I have this much time left, right? But his argument is like, time doesn't, like, that's the thing that we came up with. And what it makes me think about, and maybe I'm wrong in this because I haven't studied like Buddhism or anything, I got too in-depthly, but like even Christ, I feel like there's this call, they never bring in time. Like, they're never like, you must do this by the time you're this age.
Yeah.
It's always, I feel like these, like, people who talk about meditation and about mindfulness, it's always about like kind of trying to live in a world without that. Without that. Like, yeah.
Yeah. It seemed to be, Jesus' emphasis seemed to be more on the direction you're pointed than how fast you're moving in that direction. I'm surprised to hear that this book is encouraging the reader to shrug off the pressure of time, because the title of the book made me think that it might be hustle culture-y.
Right.
Because like, it's like, if you have 4,000 weeks, then you need to accomplish something in every single one. And by the time you die, you'll have 4,000 points.
Well, I listened to a podcast with him.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he did that as a sales tactic.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
It's like, and he believes that's all right. You know,
Yeah.
Get somebody in the door thinking, I'm going to learn how to manage my time.
Yeah.
Right. And how to be effective. Right. And life hack and this and that. Right.
Yeah.
And then you read the book and you're like, oh, it's not about doing the most I can. It's about, maybe it's about being the most you can, you know?
Yeah.
In a sense. And by doing so, you actually do the most you can.
Right.
By focusing on being, you actually end up doing the most that you could. Like the highest that you could, the most you could achieve.
Yeah.
You know, in a sense. The best, in real estate, there's this thing called, I think it's highest and best use, right? So it's like by focusing on being instead of like, how much can I cram into this life?
Yeah.
You end up using yourself to the best and highest use, right?
Right.
So it is about time management for mortals. Like, it is about that, but not in the way that you thought.
That's cool.
It's going to be.
I wonder if that's just a sales tactic, which good for him for being self-aware about the fact that he's using a sales tactic, because that's great. But I wonder if he's also trying to deliver the antidote where the disease is by naming it after something that someone who needs this message would be attracted to.
100%.
You know what I mean? That's really cool. That's a really cool service to provide.
I feel like, it's interesting because I've grown up, I've always been like oriented towards that, towards like these types of things.
Right.
Like how, like in school, I would always try to just, like when I would read, I'd skim and I'd pick out words that seemed like, I'm like, oh, they're going to ask me about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is just what's like, cause it was in bold, right? So it was obvious. It's like, this is what's going to be the question. So I'd skip everything else and just go to the bold stuff.
Right.
Right. And then take the test and it's like, yep, they only asked me questions about the bold stuff. There's like pages where there's no bold, didn't read it, they didn't ask me about it.
Right. In the textbooks, I do remember that.
In the textbooks.
Yeah, like the key terms.
That's it. And that's all they asked you on.
Absolutely.
Well, and so then you try to take that to other parts of your life. But the thing is, you reach a limit because your life you're limited in your life, right? By time that we put on ourselves. And so that's what got me to read the book.
That strategy is smart if you're having information imposed on you. It's like, I never asked to read a biology textbook, and I don't really want to, so I'm just going to pick out the bold. But then when we get to our lives, we're doing what we picked. I can't believe sometimes that I'm doing what I picked, and I'm rushing through it.
Yeah.
I really do all the time. I make a meal that I want. I picked out my favorite cheese and my favorite noodles, and I made macaroni, and I put my favorite toppings and seasonings on it, and then I just scarfed it down. Like, what am I doing?
Programming,
right?
Like I feel like some people say that we've been programmed by the American school system, right? To just like to do how we're led, right? And not say, what do I want? Like, what's calling me? More just, this is what I should do because that's what everybody else seems to be doing. Like, that's the path I should go down, and I should be grinding, and I need to get a house, and I need to do this and do that. And it's like, maybe you're not meant for that. You know? So I feel like that is kind of what the book is trying to lead you to.
Cool. It's trying to lead you to a place where you have, there's this Bible line that's coming to my mind, but not completely. Forsake all others. It's a line about marriage. It says forsaking all others in relation to marriage. But it's like, it's talking about that for what you choose to be, right? Like, forsake all other things that you could be what's most you, and then be fully present for that. And that's also secondarily, and that also happens to be the most productive way to live.
Well,
that's
and so that's like to tie back into what you were saying earlier. You were saying how and tell me if I got this right, because I might be wrong, because I was thinking about getting this notepad while you were telling me. You said, I think you said that you struggle with saying yes to something because then you're saying no to everything else, or to a bunch of things, right?
Yeah.
I look at it, if that's what you're thinking, like for me, when I feel like that, I feel like, oh, and this has been kind of an unlock recently, because I used to feel like I have to be nice to everybody. Christ has called me to be nice and loving to everybody. So anybody who wants to be my friend, I'm going to be their friend back. And I'm going to make sure that they have a good impression on me, because by doing so, they don't feel bad, and I'm doing God's will.
Yeah.
Right? And so then it feels like if I don't do that for somebody, then it's neglect. I'm neglecting them.
Yeah.
And I'm neglecting this, and I'm neglecting that. But this book made the point that that's just how things are. Like, you don't choose to neglect or not neglect. You are neglecting things, regardless of what you do.
Nice.
So
you already are.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
Like in school, there's this thing called natural helpers. I was one of them, where you put on a shirt and they give you like a little talk about what it means to be a natural helper. One of the things is, like, you see someone sitting alone at lunchtime, go sit with them, right? I carried that on to my adult life now. But the thing is that you can't do that. Like, because what ends up happening is I end up spending time with these people, just sitting with them. Yeah. Hearing their story.
Just randomly at restaurants and stuff?
No, but like, abstract that. So not actually sitting with people at lunch.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But just finding.
So now it's like hanging out with someone you don't really want to hang out with because that's just the right thing to do, or something.
Because someone needs to hear them. They're alone.
Yeah. Okay.
But then what you end up finding is that these. I don't know if this is right, but it's like these people are there because they want to be.
Right. Yeah.
Not everybody. Sometimes you're talking with these people who are lonely or whatever, and you're like, oh, you're just in a rut right now. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get out of it. It's all cool. But then there's other people who it's like, you can't help them.
I know. I work for, I take care of parks right now for my job. And I love to talk to people who are alone at the park. But I did talk to a dude last week that didn't hear a word I said, talked over me, totally just like ignorant, narrow-minded, not listening. And I was like, fuck this guy. This isn't a conversation anyway. I'm out of here. Like, this is not, I know the kind of interaction that you're talking about.
It makes me think of my uncle, dude.
Yeah. Oh, what's his name and birth date?
Well, I don't know why I thought about bringing up my uncle. But like that sense of, well, it's because, I don't know if you know, but the uncle that I'm talking about, his name was Fidel, and he was a drug addict. And he was always in and out of like juvie and in jail in California, Orange County. And then, but he had that vibe, dude.
I'm sorry. I was gonna ask,
cool.
Why are you about to throw your uncle under the bus when we're putting this on YouTube?
Well,
but now I'm getting
dead.
Yeah, now I'm getting it. Now I'm getting why you...
Yeah, and also because I'm a natural helper, so I'm hoping this story helps people.
Yes.
Yikes.
Okay, so Fidel. So
yeah. No, well, it's like you said, that guy, you met him, and you just felt like he wasn't listening.
Yeah.
He had something else on his mind, you know, and it's like,
yeah.
Are you going to help me get what I want, or...
Right.
Or what? And then they realize that you're not going to do it, and they're just like, fuck you, dude. Like,
yeah, and I'm like, fuck you, because you don't even want what you want anyway.
Yikes.
Like, I'm good.
So my uncle was like that,
Yeah.
And my mom's kind of like that sometimes. You know, and they come from the same background of just abuse from family members, relatives, and then also just growing up in the hood. And so that's what they see from everybody else is going through that too. So it's like, well, all right, it just is what it is. But at the same, and then going through like foster homes, you know, and the system, the foster home people, they're not saints. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They honestly just want you there to get some money from the government.
Yeah, sometimes.
You know? Yeah, not all the time, but yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, they end up abusing you too, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, what's the point of being in foster care if somebody you don't even know is also abusing you? Like, that's weird.
Absolutely a trip.
It's weird, dude. Yeah. So then that makes me question that whole system, you know? But anyways.
Yeah. So how have you been applying this principle of embracing your finitude by being comfortable only having what you have, forsaking everything else? How's that been playing out for you?
So I'm going to write down forsaking everything else. That's the topic.
Cool. I came up with the name of that topic. You wrote down what I said. Did you hear that?
I feel like Dr. Peterson with my notepad in my podcast. Look, I'm on a podcast with my notepad.
Cross your arms
true.
Like this, absolutely eviscerate your nuts.
What nuts? I just got my ears pierced. Oh?
I'm stuck. Yeah.
Dude, his suits are wild.
You know, wear a suit covered in Russian soldiers or whatever he wears.
Yeah, dude, I can't. This isn't for me. It's for lanky boys. You know, me as a non-lanky boy, not great. This is not great. But
no, he does it like this.
Yeah, no, his knee straight up. Yep. I can't do that anymore. I could do that. I'm like, maybe I can. I could do it when I weighed less, but
the journalist, I can do it. Here we go.
No, actually, when I was doing jiu-jitsu, I could do it. Yeah, that was fun.
I didn't know you did jiu-jitsu.
I did it for like a month and a half.
Get cooler and cooler. Oh, never mind. That's lame. Me too, though. Speaking of saying yes to too many things.
I did it because Joe Rogan said
I've
it was
done like
cool.
4 martial arts for 1 month.
Yikes. But did you go every day? I went every day, dude. I was on grind mode, dude.
Yeah.
It was sick. And then I was like, I'm going to hurt myself. I don't want to keep doing this. Because I kept hearing from people more experienced. They're like, oh, yeah, your neck gets fucked up and your knees get fucked up. Like everybody was like, you know, you're just training and then you're not trying to. And all of a sudden, something pops. You know, like you might not even be going hard, but the other person is. Accidentally.
You know what, too? When you get into those gyms, there's some people who are there to take out their anger.
Yeah, dude.
Just like friendly sparring.
Or prove something.
Just whop
like
you.
Ego.
It's just like,
prove
what
something.
are we doing? Why?
Okay, forsaking everything else. I honestly forgot. There was some context there that you had.
Yeah, I was curious how it's been playing out for you.
How that's been playing out for me.
Yeah. What have you gotten better at saying no to so that you can have more of what you value most?
I remember what I wanted to say. So I listen to podcasts a lot. I listen to Rogan a lot, and I've been listening to Modern Wisdom recently a lot, which I know that you think that name's funny. Like,
no, I thought
if he was calling himself.
I thought his name was Modern Wisdom.
Kind of like
I thought
Destiny.
That was
Calls
really
himself
funny.
Destiny.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anyways, there actually is a lot of modern wisdom in that podcast.
Cool.
Believe it or not.
Cool.
Well, anyways, like I listened like every episode of Rogan almost like for like a year. Just every single one.
Wow.
Like, if it was somebody that I didn't know,
Yeah.
and like I read the description, it's like, don't care about it. Still read it. I'd still listen to it.
That's a good, well-rounded education right there.
Dude, so
That's awesome.
When dude, there were so many times where I was like, don't care about the subject, don't know about it. And then just like maybe 2 hours in, something would just click. Like I'd just hear something and be like, oh, yo, sick.
Yeah.
You know?
Evan's brother, Ryan, does that too. He watches every single one.
I haven't really been doing it lately just because I've kind of like, after reading that book, you know, it's like now I'm more focused. A little bit more focused.
Yeah. So that's an example of one of the things is like, you don't just listen to everything anymore because you're starting to figure out your likes and dislikes and what you want to listen to.
I'm trying to
most.
lean into it a little bit. I'm dipping my toe because the book was convincing, and in my experience of listening to all these awesome people, because honestly, Rogan has like so many people that seem to be like at the top of their field. Like there's so many people. Some people think they're at the top of the field, but really they're just like kooks. But
yeah,
a lot of them, it's like Elon, dude. He's one of the richest guys in the world, and he's had him on like 3 or 4 times. You know, and it's like
yeah,
and it's crazy to me how long they're sitting there talking. I feel so blessed, dude. I'm like,
dude, I know, me too.
Dude, I'm like, dude, this is awesome.
The first time Musk was on Rogan, I took work off. It was like a holiday for me. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
We're going to hear from the most like genius person in the world for 3 hours straight.
Oh my God, dude.
What? When have you ever been able to just like listen to a Marcus Aurelius interview? Like, are you kidding me?
No, seriously. No, like so many influential people. Well, hearing all these people, like athletes, top of their game, just all these domains that people care about.
Yeah.
Right? That people are like, oh my God, these guys are successful. These guys are winning, right? All these guys, right? Same thing on Modern Wisdom. He brings on like people who are top of the game. And a lot of the things that these guys have in common is that ability to just commit. Like they're not, a lot of times, like some of them, sure, they're grinders. Like they just hustle, right? And they are trying to stuff in as much as they can in this one life. And they are they're neurotic. And some might view them as like, oh, that's an illness. You know, like you are working yourself to death because you don't value yourself and like you believe that you're not enough, right? That's a lot of these guys too. But also a lot of them is that book of like, basically their idea is like, this is all I want to do, like in the sense because I love it. You know, they love the thing, and they're not thinking like you and I seem to think, where it's like, I just like, or I don't know, at least for me, I like just learning things, and like something that happened recently when I got my realtor license. The reason why I got it was because I saw these realtors. They seem to have money. They seem to have freedom of schedule, which you say that not all of them, and I believe you, but they seem to like, oh man, this job, sick. Like I just made 20 grand and I worked like 10 hours, you know, like worked 10 hours. Yeah. And like the thing is, me coming from like being an electrician in the trade,
right? It's
like I'm dealing with hot environments, like very hot, like the hottest it gets during the year and the coldest it gets during the year here in Washington, and dealing with the elements, dealing with people, using my muscles like most of the week, you know, getting down and stuff. And then I hear these realtors just have to like talk to people. It's like, that's already part of my job. I have to schmooze clients anyway. You know, I have to be on the phone, like waiting. Oh yeah, someone's calling. Yeah. What do you need? How can I serve you?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's the same thing as a realtor. And these guys are talking about how they're making this much money. And it's like, oh, and then I got to spend time with my kids and this and that. I'm like, this sounds sick. Yeah. So one, it sounded sick, but two, I was like, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
Also, this one realtor said something along the lines, and if you hear this, sir, I might have misheard you, but the way I heard you was the tradespeople, a lot of them are just stupid, and they're not smart enough to work in a different field. So that's why they're doing it. And I was like, that didn't feel right. But so I kind of wanted to get the license to stick it to them, you know, to be like, I can do what you're doing, you fucking realtor. Like, look at me, I got the license too. You know, that's part of the reason why I got it, and that's part of the reason why
you got your realtor's license?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I got it.
Nice.
Yeah, I got it, and that was part of the reason was because that guy said like he kind of was like, oh yeah, it takes brains to do what I'm doing because that's all he does. He's a realtor.
Takes brains to be a realtor.
That's kind of what he was insinuating, which maybe he wasn't. That's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck you, dude. I can do that too.
Yeah.
That's why I got a lot of, that's why I pursued a lot of things. Because I'm like, I want to see if I can.
Because of an imposed limitation?
Yeah, like, oh, look what I can do. But the thing is.
So not necessarily just because someone imposed it, but just to demonstrate that you can. Just
that I am capable of being at your level too. I can play your game too, and I can beat you at it. Like, that sense. Even though I haven't beat them at it, but just showing them, like, I could. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I don't think that's real.
Right.
I don't think that's real, especially if you're always bouncing around.
Right.
But that's how I get my high, is by like, oh, look what I can do. But this book has started, like, talking about forsaking everything else, right? Mm-hmm. This book has started to make me realize, oh, that's not the winning strategy.
That's exactly what I was just thinking, is like, you got to look at some games and go, yes, I'm losing that game. That's okay. I'm winning a different game.
You have to. Whether you, like, let's say you say, no, I'm going to try to win as many games as possible. You're still going to lose an infinite amount of games.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Like, let's say you win 100 games, right? It's like, oh, well, you lost an infinite of them. So who cares that you won 100 games and you, like, worked your ass off and lost all the cartilage in your knees because you're David Goggins, and, like, shit. So it's like, that's what this book's, like, talking about.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to sink into that a little bit because the old ways are still calling me, And so I'm dipping my toe in and see if it feels good.
And have you had a win recently in that respect?
Let me think about it. Because I feel like I have, but I want to be specific.
Yeah, no rush.
It feels like it. So I've been learning about business recently. And something that people... So I've been learning about business and I've been learning about wealth. And wealthy people tend to make money. Like, how do you charge more? You charge more by being good at something. Like, your value is in, like, oh, this person knows what they're doing. They're reliable, and they do it better than other people. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pay them what they ask because I'd rather not go with anyone else. Mm-hmm. Right? That's how a lot of people make their money, right? Like, something that, like, when people go, oh, that's too expensive, right? I've heard a rebuttal, like a sales tactic rebuttal is like, if the prices were equal, who would you rather, if price wasn't a thing, like both of us cost the same, who would you rather work with? And then the customer is like, oh, I'd rather work with you. Like, so that idea. And so because of that, I've started to see, like, my time in the trade. Because I got into the trade on a whim, basically. Like, when I was 18, before I got into the trade, I had the mentality of, like, I have so much potential. Right now I'm into drums. At the time I was into drums. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I could make a living off of playing drums, posting on Instagram and YouTube, just make money, have fun. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I can do whatever else calls me. Mm-hmm. Right? And then Gary Vee told me, he said, no, you need to go with your dad and be there for the next 7 years. And if you do that, you're going to get out at 25. You're still going to be super young, but you're going to have experience because you're working in the family business. It's going to teach you stuff. You're going to have memories with your dad. And I was like, dude,
totally.
I don't know what I want to do, right? You seem to know what you're doing because back then he was like, millionaire and had a bunch of followers and he wasn't my dad, and I told him, I gave him context and that's the answer he gave me. And I said, dude, I'm just going to trust you. Yeah. And so that's paid off. Cool. Like, just being in the, committing to that, dude, that's the longest commitment I have. Yeah, yeah. Like, so many other things that I don't commit to them that hard. Mm-hmm. And it feels weird admitting that because, it's just like, I'm not that good at a lot of things, even though I've tried a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Like, I've realized recently, because I want to date, but the thing is, I don't know how much I want to date, but part of getting into that has led me to being like, oh, what are you good at? Like, that's one of the questions that comes up a lot. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, I'm honestly only good at electrical. And this is the thing that I've done the longest. And not even the whole field of electrical. residential electrical or any. It's literally just like certain things that we just do a lot and that I like. That's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And there's not really anything else that I can say, oh, I'm good at that. Like, I play Gran Turismo 7 a lot. Mm-hmm. And I've grown up playing racing games. And I've always been one of the faster ones in my friend group, right? Yeah. And then when I race, like, at the go-karts, I'm usually top 3 wherever I go. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I've been to Orlando, like K1, usually top 3, you know, and like, just anywhere. Yeah. Right? So I feel like, oh, look at me, like, I'm good. But then I look at the world, and I look at actual people who are good, and I'm like, dude, like, not as good as them, you know? Yeah. And it's because I haven't put the time in. That's how I feel about it. Yeah. And so it feels weird because it's like part of me is like, man, it's been so fun to try out things, but at the same time, it sucks because I haven't built anything. Mm. And so the last 2 years, I've dedicated to building something. Like it started at, okay, in debt, both physically and financially. And then, so in debt, bad habits, to, okay, now I want to start this journey to improve my physical health and financial health. And so in the last 2 years, it's been about developing that. And so this book, I guess, kind of is starting to push me off the edge, like into the realm of like, oh, this is just what I'm going to do. Like just this thing, just like this handful of things. Instead of believing that I could do anything, it's like, oh no, like this is the path to a meaningful life. Yeah. It's not believing that I'm full of potential, right? But just acting out, just action. You know, just acting out what I can. Yeah. Instead of living in this mental masturbation, like mental jack-off moment, like ejaculation of just like, oh, look at, man, I'm full of potential. Yeah. Instead of just living in that, living in action. Yeah. And it's weird because you take action and you don't come right away, you know, in that analogy. Yeah. When you have these mental moments, you know, mental sessions.
You've now described masturbation using 4 different terms, which I'm really impressed by. You use masturbation, jerking off, coming, and I think there's a 4th one too.
Yeah. I jerk off a lot. Wow. Not compared to some people, but, you know, compared to others, yes.
And that's mentally masturbating on its own. You go, well, not compared to some people.
Yeah. Now I'm like soothing myself.
However much layers. Other people, whoever does more than me is weird. Yeah. Whoever does less than me is prude.
Exactly. Whoever does less than me, it's like they're doing their own thing, you know? It's like, that's them. Yeah. Hello, square.
And whoever does more than me, pervert.
Well, the people that do less than me, they talk high. Oh my God, yeah, like, I don't jerk off as much as you do. You know, I only do it like twice a week, and it's like, oh fuck you, dude. Like, yeah, it's not good for you more than twice. And I'm like, that's all right. Yeah, and then some people are like, I'm addicted to porn, and it's like, are you really, or are you just like avoiding the things that you need to be doing and just watching porn instead? You know, is that the same thing? Basically,
yeah, definitely.
But the thing is, looking at it from a Peterson perspective, right? If that's the case, then by doing the things that you're supposed to do, you're not addicted to porn anymore. Yeah. Because you reverse it. Yeah. But yeah, okay, to get back to the mental masturbation, just that idea of like, oh, I could be anything and getting high off of that instead of just taking action.
Absolutely.
Because then but the thing is, it's so nice.
It's a slower high.
Dude. Oh, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. I think it's more sustainable.
Absolutely.
Because the highs aren't so high, but the lows aren't that low. Mm-hmm. And that it's funny how that applies to dopamine. I'm kind of just going off right now.
Please do.
But so as far as the way I understand the dopamine system in the body is that you have a pool where the dopamine chemical can chill. Yeah. Right. And it builds up there. And then as you use it, you're at your baseline. As you use it, you know, it starts going up. So if you use it extremely, right, then it's going to come down with some momentum. And it's going to dip below. And then you're going to be down here while your pool rebuilds. But the thing is, if you empty it all at once, right, quickly, you're going to be like, woohoo! And then it's going to dip, and then you're just going to have to wait for it to rebuild. And it could take a week, it could take weeks. Yeah. But in that moment, you don't feel like doing anything. Because dopamine, I've heard is the chemical. It's not about what did they say? It's about the enjoyment of the pursuit.
Yeah.
You know, that's what dopamine's about.
Yeah.
It's about like you're like, I'm seeking this thing. I feel like getting after this thing. Mm-hmm. You know, but it's not about getting the thing. And so then when you don't have dopamine, you don't feel like doing anything. Mm-hmm. And so when you're constantly chasing stuff, it's like that feels good, but then you have that other swing where you just, I don't want to do anything, you know?
Right.
Whereas if you have that steady, you just kind of just build stuff.
That is really relevant to the main idea of this book we're talking about, because that process, for me, it would be researching college degrees, for example. And I don't know what the equivalent is for you, but the area in your life where you are seeking miscellaneous potentialities, none of which you're really acting on it. In that moment that you find a potentiality, you get a dopamine kick that is pathetic compared to the dopamine kick you get for actually doing something, but it's still nice. It's just like, oh, I found something interesting. And then I imagined the possibility where I pursued this thing and succeeded in it. And it's like, boom, dopamine kick, gone. Next. So as you're just flipping through these little hits.
You're saying like you find a degree.
Yeah.
And then you see yourself accomplishing the degree.
Yes.
Like in that moment, you're like, you read the description.
I imagine a future. I read the description. I imagine a future where I got that
like,
degree.
Oh, dude, I can totally get it.
And then succeeded in
and you became this like scholar in the degree.
Yes, 100%.
In that specific degree.
I see images of myself teaching about that degree, and then I imagine the different things.
And helping people in this and
maybe even another degree I could pair it with. Yeah. So flip through all these potentialities.
Yeah, dude.
Get a dopamine, little pathetic sippy straw. But
in the moment, it's like sick, dude.
Super sick.
Or not. Or does it feel a little?
Yeah, it's better, but similar to doom scrolling.
You're saying relative volume, relative. It's just not a lot of volume, but it's a big spike.
Yeah.
But
little spike, and then compared to when I do homework in the present moment, if I'm mindfully doing homework and I'm reminding myself to be consciously engaged in the material, and I'm gaining meaning and satisfaction from studying the material, competently completing the assignments on time, the kind of sustainable buzz of joy and peace that I get from that is so much better than the buzz of looking at a degree. It's like it's so different. But everybody, I think, has something like that in their life, some bastardized version of real success that you get little dopamine spikes out of. You know.
Yeah, there's something about talking to somebody about what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
And then not doing it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And you get caught in this loop where you're a liar. Mm-hmm. Right? But the thing is that you're not lying directly. It's like people get excited for you. They're like, oh my God, dude, I'm so glad you're going to do that. Like, that's going to be so good for you. They believe in you.
Yeah, right.
Partly because you believe in yourself, but also partly because maybe they see that genius in you. I don't know if that's too strong of a word, genius, right? But they see that, they're like, dude,
lowercase
he could totally do. Yeah, lowercase g.
Like you could do that.
Oh my God, he could do that. And if he did that, that'd be sick, right?
Right.
And then you don't do it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I wonder why he didn't do it.
Right.
And then you do it again, and then you don't do it again. And it's like, okay, what's up with this guy? Like, he's just not doing anything.
Yeah.
like he could totally, like, it's like somebody with a sick car with a lot of horsepower and just a lot of torque and just badass.
Right.
And just revving it and never taking off.
Right.
It's like, it's like, dude, I can't wait for that thing to do a burnout, and then just, just gets out of the car and, all right, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Yikes. Dang, dude, this is crazy. Is this therapy? It feels like therapy, man.
It is. It is, man. It is. They're really, really good reminders, because the people, there's people in your life that genuinely want you to succeed. Not all of them.
Yeah.
Some of the people in your life don't give a shit if you succeed. Some would rather you fail. Everybody's got weird intentions. But there are some people who actually want you to succeed, and those people would be absolutely stoked if you actually stepped on the gas, you know? That's true for everybody. There's like 3 or 4 people around you that actually want you to win. They really do. And if you just stomped on the gas and they finally saw you do a full-blown burnout, they'd feel like, fucking knew it. He's the man.
You know what's weird, dude, is maybe the guy getting out of the car gets out of the car because he's like, you know, if I should be spending time, you know, working on getting into a jet airplane instead because I'm gonna go way faster.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Hell
like
yeah, dude.
Like getting out of the car, right? And it's just like, but we think it'd be sick if you like rip this thing down the drag strip right now. Right. And so then, but you're like, no, I'm working on, it's kind of like what you were saying about your dad, dude.
Yeah.
Constantly working on the plans.
Yes. The house plans.
That's
yeah.
weird.
That was his version.
But why is it that in the moment it feels like the right move? It's like, no, yeah, I should be aiming higher. But then you just end up not making any progress.
Well, I mean, okay, so first of all, we do need to have grace for ourselves for the fact that we have more ideas than we act on, because that's why we have imagination. Because we can generate, if we're speaking in an evolutionary sense, for example, the fact that we can generate potentialities and then observe in our imagination the acting out of the potentiality and then decide whether or not to do it physically based on how that simulation played out, that's useful. And that's why we can plan different than animals, because we don't have to walk off the cliff and fall. We can imagine ourselves walking off the cliff. You know what I mean? So first of all, it's okay that we have more ideas than we have actually acted out plans. That's supposed to be the case. Second, if you want to forsake the muscle car and spend 10 years building a jet, come back to those same people 10 years later and say, check this shit out. I got a jet, and then fly your jet. That's okay. Yeah. If you want to stay and be content with the muscle car, that's okay. All of that's okay. But we have this unbelievably just mysterious responsibility to decide subjectively what's enough for us and act on it.
Well, okay.
And there's no right way to do that, and it's trial and error.
Coming back to the muscle car thing.
Yeah.
And having an audience.
Yeah.
I think part of it is, I think that it's a sin to act like you're about to rip a Mustang.
Yeah.
Get in the car and then just get out and be like, you know what, guys? Actually, I'm just going to go work on the jet. Never mind. Right? So it's like people took time out of their day to come see you do this thing.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, honestly, I think I should do this other thing because that'd be way better.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, dude, give us something.
Well, but there's also something self-important about this thinking, because we tend to imagine ourselves as the protagonist surrounded by an audience. But really, every individual in the scenario is a protagonist with their own muscle car and their own jet. So is everybody waiting around to see if you're going to pull the muscle car or the jet? Are they really?
That's the other thing.
You know, are you really that relevant to everybody around you? Or is everybody worried about their own muscle car and their own jet? And do you owe anybody a muscle car? And so, yeah, if you say to everybody, come show up, you know, my muscle car, blah, 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 then you've been given an opportunity in the trial and error process of deciding what to commit to and what not to commit to, that you overcommitted and that's not your thing. And so, yeah, you should learn your lesson from that. But also, everybody's going through that trial and error where they're trying to decide what exactly to pull the trigger on and what not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do wonder if this has to do more with me. In my history, I wonder if I don't know if you do. I don't know if it's, but it's like this pull to always tell somebody about something I'm going to do.
Absolutely.
Like something that that excites me. It's like, oh, I have to tell somebody about this. This is exciting. Yeah, but I wonder how that relates to somebody who just gets excited easily. I wonder if I'm that person, you know, that just gets excited easily. Because like my mom, something I see in her that she does, and I don't know if this has to do with it. Maybe I just want to keep talking. But
I want to keep listening, so go ahead.
Like the other day, she asked my sister, "Hey, your aunt wants she said your Tia Rachel needs a really, really big favor from you. Like if you could do her a really big favor." She's really hyping it up, dude. The thing is, like me, I'm just like, dude, I know it's not a big favor. But she makes it, she's like anchoring you and like, oh, this is a huge favor. So that when it's not a big favor and you can take care of it, you're just like, oh, dude, that wasn't a big deal. But the thing is, when she does it all the time, you're just like, can you just ask me already? Like,
okay, yeah.
You ask me for stuff all the time, and it's never a big deal. And it's always stuff that you could do yourself, or that they could do, or stuff that doesn't even need to be done. It's like, this probably didn't have to even be done. Yeah. But you make it seem like it's a huge deal that must be done, and I need your help. and in your favor, and you'd be doing me such a solid.
Yeah.
You know? And so because of that, now I think because of her spirit, right? People who don't know her, the first time she does that to you, you're like, oh my God, how could I be of service? Like if you wanted to help, right? You're like, dude, what could be so big that she thinks I'm capable of accomplishing? How could I serve her?
Yeah.
Right? And then she tells you and you're like, oh, like that wasn't a big deal. All right. Yeah, I can do this. And then you're like, okay, that was a little weird, but cool. You know, like I helped. But then she does it again and again. And you're just like, something's off.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You keep hyping me up, you know?
Yeah.
And well, so the thing is, so then I would do that to peers, and it would work like there was a pink day, right? Where you had to dress in pink for breast cancer awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who had the most pink would get on stage with other people, and then we would cheer for who we liked the most. So I took that spirit of just being grandiose, right? And just going all out and just put on a bunch of pink. I was like, yeah, I'm going to wear the most pink. And I did. And put together this just crazy outfit, just like this most like WrestleMania type outfit, right?
Nice.
And then I thought it to myself, I got to plant seeds, you know, around the school so that when I get on stage, people have been hearing about it. And then I also, like right before I got on stage,
I told campaigning and everything.
Oh yeah, dude. I told my boys, them like, hey, start chanting, like before I even get on stage, like, or as I get on stage or whatever.
Yeah.
So then they did, right? And then I won.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then that felt good. I was like, yeah, dude, like I did it. I didn't actually do anything. You know, like in the grand scheme of things, it's like what you won for having the most pink in your school. I didn't donate anything to breast cancer. You know, I didn't do anything, dude. But the thing is that I've done that multiple times where I convince people that something is important, right? Now this hasn't happened recently in like past years, maybe on a minor scale, but before it was like, I convince you that this is important. And some people fall for it, but it ends up being enough people that it's an event. Mm-hmm. And that would happen every year for my birthday parties. Like I think the last birthday party I did was maybe 16 years old, 17 years old. I would print off. So the way I thought about it was whoever shows up, they're going to feel obligated to give me a gift. If they give me $5 and I invite 40 people, that's going to be $200 or whatever. Right? I think that's $200.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but you know what? I have some rich friends and a lot of them probably going to give me like $20. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And this is before Biden inflation. So it really mattered. And so I thought, I wasn't thinking about it like, oh man, I'd love to be surrounded around people that love me and then I love them. And let's just have a nice warm time. Right. Mm-hmm. No, I was like, how many people can I convince to come to my party? Yeah. Give me money so that I can just have money. Yeah. And it was really just to buy whatever I wanted to buy. But like, even what I wanted to buy wasn't that important. It was more proving to myself, look how many people I can get to play my game. Yeah. And so I would make flyers and I'd make them like super like eye-catching and like memorable. Like you'd see them like, it's just wild. And I'd put in the thing like gift suggestion, money, you know, like straight up. And then, dude, I'm serious. And I'd hand out like, I want to say around 100 at least. And like 30, 40 people would show up.
Nice.
We'd buy Little Caesars pizza, Costco cake, water balloons from the dollar store.
Efficient.
I'm serious, dude. So like when churches be talking about, oh, this is the budget and this, and I'm like, bro, you guys are dumb, dude. Like, you guys are spending way too much money to have fun. You're like, oh, we want to have fun, and this is the budget. It's gonna cost like $5,000 to do this event. And it's like, dude, you don't need that much money to do an event where people are like absolutely happy, and like have a great time. And we would have a great time at the parties. I'd rake in like $300-400, you know, and we'd litter up the Hanson Park. But hey, that's why I pick taxes. That's what my mom said.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I don't get mad when I pick up garbage at the park.
You don't?
That's why.
Really?
I'm paid to do this.
Oh, are you serious?
That's why I have a job.
Fuck yeah, dude. I felt bad for that day, dude. We really like water balloons everywhere, cake and shit. Just trashed it.
So let me tie this back in with where we started on these stories. We're talking about whether you have an obligation to follow through when you invite people to show up to see you burn out in a muscle car, and or to what extent you're under that obligation and how relevant it really is. And then you went into a couple stories where you had rallied people's attention around something successfully. So I was thinking you were heading in the direction of reflecting on what you have invited people to get excited about and whether it was something that was really worthwhile to you or not. Is that the direction that you were going with that?
Well, I think that this is something else that I do, that I tend to do, and I want to break free of it. It's put myself in a bad light just to climb out of it. And then people are like, oh my God, dude, like he was the underdog. And then he got out of it. Love this guy.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But but that's not good because I'm lying. Like, that's how I feel. And so, like, I think this ties into what you're asking me. The birthday parties, people that came had fun. But my intent behind them wasn't because I cared about them. It, like, which is weird. So, my intent around them was just like, I want to get a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And this would be fun. But really, I just want to invite everybody and give me your money.
Yeah.
But the thing is this, by another lens, exact same scenario. And really, it's like, oh, dude, like, Mitch put on something fun. And we weren't doing anything anyway. And we went, hung out with a bunch of people from school. And we had fun at the park with cake and throwing cake and water balloons. And I gave them a gift. So they feel good because it's like, oh, I'm giving a gift to my homie. It's his birthday. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like, that's a nice thing to do in this, like, Tri-Cities culture of, like, those types of people. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm giving my friend a gift. Like, and it's money, and that's what he wanted. I'm a good person. And then they had fun. So then someone could see that and be like, oh, dude, Mitch put on a good time for these people. Mm-hmm. Cool. But it's weird how my brain wants to tell it as, look at me, I was being manipulative. But really, that's not the whole story. And I tend to do that a lot. I tend to put myself among the lowlifes with my intentions instead of looking for a better frame to describe why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, not all the time, because I've been noticing that pattern and I've been trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, I do something. It could be viewed from two angles. Right? A really cynical person could be like, oh, he was totally just trying to manipulate those guys. Right? And then someone else who's, like, just more like kind and just benefit of the doubt, or not even that, just like someone more normal, someone less cynical. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but would just be like, oh, like, no, it's just normal. Like, how nice of him to invite all these people. Yeah. And they all had a great time. Yeah. You know? Yeah. But I tend to put myself in a cynical position. Like, I tend to be a cynic towards myself. Yeah. It's weird.
I think it's good. Especially when you're trying to make a point. If you're talking about a principle from a book and you want to make a point, way better.
You're saying, like, steel manning?
What do you mean by steel manning?
Like, instead of always seeing yourself like, oh, I'm always doing good, right? You go, like, what would my worst critic say about this, right? Like, what's their defense?
Well,
what's their stance?
I think that if you're going to share a story about how something applies to your life or how you've learned from it, it's generally more educational, relatable, and ennobling to share an example of you doing the wrong thing or not being able to do it or something like that than giving an example of you succeeding. I think it's generally a better teaching tool and a better self-reflection tool. But I don't mean say about yourself what your worst critic would say, because your worst critic wants to reduce you to what's worst in you, wants to identify whatever's worst in you, and then reduce you and characterize your whole being by what's worst in you. That's what your worst critic wants to do. But the positive masculine in you, so to speak, wants to playfully and cynically point out what is so pathetic about your intention in order to help you become more aware of it, to become better and more mature. You know what I mean? So there's a nice balance there where it's a kind of really, really empowering cynicism. That's just like, oh yeah, partially I'm just looking out for myself, but I do this and that, or, you know, I have to learn this hard lesson. There's a really loving, playful, kind of cynical self-awareness that's really good. That's not worse. You know, it's not critical in a destructive way.
Tell me what I'm missing from what you said. So I heard that talking about overcoming hardships, like times that were low, where something happened and you were low, but you overcame it. It's a good thing to talk about because people, when they hear that, it could help them out of a hard time. So it's good for people.
Yeah.
I kind of was missing the last part, the cynicism part, playful cynicism you were talking about.
Yeah, like, because you were saying, what would my worst critic say? And I'm saying, no, fuck what your worst critic has to say. Because the worst critic in you, the accuser, the finger pointer, it doesn't want to acknowledge your less noble intentions for the sake of using them as a teaching tool, becoming more self-aware, and becoming greater. Your worst critic wants to reduce you to what's worst in you. So fuck that. But playfully acknowledge the humanness and the limited nobility of some of your intentions, because that promotes self-awareness for you. It also creates a more relatable lesson for other people, and it's just a more comfortable learning tool. You know what I mean?
Can you elaborate on... So, I agree with you that fuck evil, right?
Yeah.
Like, fuck the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a cynic, like somebody who's your worst critic who just wants to bring you down. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's their intent. They're not being truthful.
Right.
They're being slanderous towards you. Like that which you could do to yourself, right? Like,
right. That voice is in each person pointed at themselves.
I agree. Don't do that.
Yeah. Just throw that
That's
out.
not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because some people could use that as fuel, right? In a weird way. Maybe not. Or they just like feeling like that, like shit or something. But so, okay, I get that. The other part you talked about, talking about your wins, but conveying a sense of humanity, like, but I'm only human. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? Can you tell me, like, in a different way, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, this book is about feeling comforted by the acknowledgement of your limitations. So if you look at your time allotted and say, I can only accomplish X, and that's okay because I'm just X, that actually frees you up to be in the present moment and really show up for your life, because you're playfully acknowledging that you're just X and all you can accomplish is X.
I guess
and then you can really just be what you want to be.
I was being a little bit, I think, maybe too focused, like, in my interpretation of what you said, because I understood it as every time you talk about a win from a low point, that you should give the audience, like, oh, but I'm only X. Like, is that your stance, or is it like...
No, not every time.
Yeah.
Not every time.
I was getting really focused on that every time. Like,
oh yeah, no, not every time. I was just sticking up for you because you gave examples of ways that you're learning these lessons, and the examples that you were giving weren't flattering. They were humble. You were saying, here's an area where I'm struggling with this. And then you were saying, I get too down on myself. Then I was defending you by saying, it's actually a really good idea to communicate principles in terms of how you're struggling to learn them, rather than acting like you're succeeding at all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you asked me to elaborate on that more, I realized we're way off track from the book. So I tried to use the book as an example to illustrate my point. So then I brought up how this book is about embracing your limitations, and how using humble examples is also about embracing your limitations.
And then I was like, no, let's stay up here out of orbit.
Yeah, no, let's stay on the tangent. No, let's go further out into the tangent.
Yeah. So I wrote this thing down, and I kind of want to close it.
Yeah.
Like, not close close that loop.
Yeah.
Of how to describe things that you've done. And also about talking about them and about identifying them. I think that's the main point. I heard this differentiation, I guess, is like genuine tragedy versus you're just playing it off worse than it was. Or not even that. Like, what's the difference between choosing to do something difficult, like going to the gym or staying for 20 minutes in the sauna that's really hot or something like that, versus actually overcoming difficulties that just come on involuntarily, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a difference. Like, when you're suffering voluntarily versus suffering involuntarily, I don't know if it might be the same feeling. Like, it might be the same pattern. Like, choosing to suffer, like, I'm going to go to the gym, I want to grow muscle, so I'm going to break down the muscle a little bit, suffer, because I want it to grow, right? So, like, I wonder if that recovery arc where you go, you experience the hardship, and then you recover, right? I wonder if that's the same as a hardship just coming onto you. Somebody dies in your family that you're close to. So now you're in that suffering, like pain, damage. And then you have to take the steps to recover. Like, because when you're building muscle, it's not like you just go, hit the gym every day. Some people can, but I can't. It takes more than that for me to recover. I have to break it down. I have to make sure I get 8-9 hours of sleep, eat enough protein, you know, and also not hit that same muscle group the next day hard.
Yeah.
Like before I'm recovered.
Yeah.
Because maybe I am recovered by then, but not always.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
You were asking my opinion on that? Or are we just wanting to kind of talk through it?
Yeah, I think you were trying to just get back to the book. And I was still thinking about this. And then, but the thing is, then
I think of a way to tie it back into the book.
Well, and then we got out of
broke the fourth wall.
We and you were like, I was trying to get back to the book.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, but I still.
Yeah.
So we can get back to the book if you want.
I can tie this back into the book.
Tie it back into the book.
Is it okay if I give you my opinion on the question that you just asked, or were you just wanting to talk through it?
But you need to tie it back into the book.
I can.
Okay.
There is a difference between voluntary and involuntary suffering, and Peterson has really good lectures on that, talking about the neuroscience of exposure therapy and how the two brain networks that deal with events that trigger fear involuntarily versus then voluntarily choosing step by step to confront that same source of fear is the crux of therapy in general, because you're not just, even if what you're doing is trying to unpack a traumatic experience that's bothering you, whatever that means, you're voluntarily exposing yourself in increments to that memory that exists in you. So that's what therapy is in general. It's this kind of measured voluntary exposure to what before was involuntary suffering. If you read a book like Man's Search for Meaning, for example, you'll find that anybody who immediately chooses to make any involuntary suffering voluntary by their own mindset is able to learn from any suffering experience as though it's exercise. And that can fortify you against any suffering.
Whoa.
But the way that it ties back into this book is that whether we choose to or not, we are losing infinite games and saying no to infinite opportunities. So the unlock that you've been talking about is saying no to all of those other games on purpose. You're already saying no to them anyway, but say no to them on purpose. Saying no to all those, saying, yes, I lose, you got me, to all those other games that aren't the game that you're trying to win, saying no on purpose, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like, because, yeah, you could look at it involuntarily and say, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe I'm not going to be able to do everything that I want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And I can't believe that according to my imaginary projection of that realtor I talked to, he's smarter than me.
He thinks he's smarter than me.
Right. Well, you think he thinks he's smarter.
I think.
You think he thinks he's smarter than you because of the comment that he said.
Let's tie this in.
You're pretty sure
I'm trying to get this in.
That he's pretty sure.
No, hold on. I'm serious. Wait, can we stay on that? How does that tie into it ties in?
It ties in because you can make the choice to say, he's right. Realtors are smarter than electricians. You win. You can just say, okay. If you say, okay, you win. If you admit that voluntarily, then you've not lost that game, but forsaken that game in service of another game. But if you can't make that admission voluntarily, then every time somebody brings up a game, that screaming ego in you is going to want to go win that game too.
And beat them.
And beat them at that game, or get close enough to beating them that you've assured yourself that you could if you wanted to, whatever ego game you want to play with that. But if you can voluntarily lose, if you can voluntarily say no, then you're not stuck.
Yeah. So let me imagine this. This is for me.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine this. He says what he says. Electricians aren't that smart, or whatever, tradesmen. And then I just go, it's your opinion. Like, all right, whatever. Like, cool. Like, you can, all right.
Yeah.
You said that. Like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, and then just move on. Like, literally just like, okay. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I don't care. I'm choosing to just not even, like, I'm choosing to focus on this other stuff instead of, yeah, I'm choosing to admit, like, you know what? You can be a realtor. Maybe I can't be. I don't want to find out. Like, and not finding out is the pain. In a sense, it's the suffering.
Exactly. That's the suffering in our example. Yeah.
But the voluntary choice to, I guess, endure that pain, which is you know what? You're kind of like, it kind of seems like that. It's like, yeah, if you focus on it, it's painful. If you focus on the fact that you're not going to accomplish everything that you could, right? That your brain is like, oh, you could do that.
Yeah.
If you focus on that fact, that sucks.
Absolutely.
It feels bad.
Yeah.
But if you say, by just letting that be, by neglecting that, by just being like, all right, I'm not going to. What's the word? Because it's like with the muscle, you're tearing the muscle voluntarily.
Yeah.
But the muscle could be teared involuntarily if that's what we got to find. How
hard does a kid work? He goes to football practice because his dad wanted him to play football. So he just kind of half jogs on the field and is lazy, and everybody thinks that kid sucks. So it's like, well, he's there involuntarily. He's not trying to do this. He's not going to win this game. He doesn't even want this game.
Oh, you know what? So like at work, for the longest time, I was like, fuck, like I have to be here another 3 hours. Like this 8-hour work schedule is arbitrary. Like, why the fuck are we doing this?
Yeah.
We don't need to be doing this. Like, why can't we just... Because I've seen how much my dad makes and like per job. And I'm like, dude, why can't you just why can't me and you just like, hey, we're going to do these jobs. We're going to split the profit among ourselves.
Right.
And not work 40 hours a week. Just work what we need to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like my idea.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, I have to be here for this much longer. But so
you were working involuntarily because you were resisting the fact that you were working while you were working.
And that I had to be there until a certain time or until something got done.
Yeah.
Huberman talked about this in one of his podcasts on this subject. And he said that when you switch it and when you volunteer, right, and you start developing that muscle of volunteering. So instead of saying I have to be here, being like, I choose to be here.
Yeah. Right.
And just reinforcing that thought makes the days go by better. And so I saw that change happen actually. And I'm still reinforcing it. Right. But it's been better. It's been easier and easier to reinforce it. That's crazy. Where it's like, I'll have that feeling of like, why am I here? And then I have to go through the chain. But the thing is, the pathways, the neural pathways they're firing faster. So at first I had to think, why am I here? And then it's like, okay, where would I be if I wasn't here? Okay. It's like what would I do if I could do anything right now? What would I do? Like, truly. Right. And then it's like, maybe I was thinking like, oh, I'd go live at a drop zone. Right. And just learn how to skydive. And it's like, okay, but then I'm going to want to see my parents because I love them and I love my friends. And then it's like the drop zone's an hour away. So then I have to drive over here. That's going to take gas and money and time. And it's like, how long could I do that for? Like money wise. And then it's like, would I even want to be there 24/7? You know, like living there and so then I would go through that. And then I'd end up at this point where I was like, this is where I need to be right now. Like, this is my best option. As far as I can tell, staying here, working my 40 hours, making sure that my dad stays happy and I stay under the radar and I just keep building my mountain and keep building myself ready to do my next thing, right? And just stay under the radar, not get attacked, right? Because oh, he senses a threat or something. And it's like, oh, we got to bring him down. You know, we got to, you know, make him think, oh, I'm here to benefit you, Dad. Like, whatever the business needs, you know? But like without lying, right? Without lying.
Yeah.
Because that's what I am here for. I don't want to rock the boat. It's like, keep it going. And then eventually have enough saved up, have enough experience, have enough protocols and everything, and then just be like, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
And then take action.
Yeah.
Right. But until then, taking any action prematurely doesn't feel like a good idea. Right. And so then that's why it's like, oh, this is where I need to be. So I choose to be here.
Yeah.
Because I could be somewhere else. I have agency, but I've determined that this is where I need to be right now.
That's nice because in the example you just gave, you're not rejecting the part of you that's running off on the fantasy and saying, I wish I wasn't here at work working, doing electrical, so I wish I was doing something else. You're not rejecting it. You're having a full conversation with it, and you're walking that part of you all the way through a process where you go, okay, so if we weren't here, where would we be? And why would we do that? And for how long? And when exactly? And why? Okay, and then what would that lead to?
And like, does that seem likely to happen?
So basically end up right back where we are. So is it cool if we just stay here? Okay, cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You walked it all the way around the block and you go, so we're back here and we're good?
So we're still here for now.
So can we change this fucking outlet or are we going to talk all day?
No, seriously. And then once you start doing that, you're like, I choose to be here. It just becomes more interesting.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh. And then it's like, oh, why do I feel like it's, oh, I need to drink water. I got to go to the bathroom. And you start taking care of yourself.
Yeah, nice.
Dude, yeah. Because that's the thing. There's a lot of suffering that is, you don't even have to have it. But you're having it because you're focused on the fact that you don't even want to be there anyway. So then that distracts you from this other stuff that's actually so. And then you're like, and you take care of yourself, and then you're like, dude, I'm having a good old time. And and the other thing too is there's these unconscious things where it's like, oh, if I did that, my dad would chew me out. And then it's like, but if I did that and he didn't chew me out, that'd be awesome, right? So then you do it, and then he doesn't chew you out, and now you're enjoying work. Yeah. Doing stuff that you want to do, living the way you want to live at work, right? And you're like, dude, I thought I was going to get chewed out for this, like, and I didn't. And then sometimes you do something and you do get chewed out. And then you're like, why did I get chewed out? Like, and it starts becoming, instead of being like this emotional roller coaster of like, oh, dad's yelling at me, I feel bad. Now I'm going to like ball up. No, it's like, okay, well, why'd he yell at me? Okay. How can I get what I want while also giving him what he wants?
Hell yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And dude, when Peterson said that compromise sucks, right? And that the best deals are the ones where both people are like, this is my deal. Like, I'm getting what I want out of it. Those are the best deals because then you don't have to be on top of the other person. Yeah. Like, making sure that they're holding up their end of the deal. They just do it because it's their deal. Like, they want what they're going to get from performing the deal. Right. So I've been thinking about how to do that because I feel like, and I might like, this might not be how he feels, but sometimes I feel like my dad doesn't feel like that. Like, he lives in this world of like,
negotiation.
I win
hurts.
some, you win some. Yeah. I lose this time, you lose next time. Versus me, I'm like, I'd like to make some deals where it's like, we're just winning. Both of us. Right. And I think those exist. And it feels good when they do. Yeah. And so seeking more of that because I feel like I'm coming from this world of like, someone has to lose. You know, or we both lose. But guess what? We're both losing. We're in this together. And it's like, what? You know, I'd rather be both winning. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the chapter that I asked you about right before you took potty break was loneliness of the digital nomad. What were you interested in sharing about that?
there's this idea. This is basically what the chapter's about. This is how he summed it up, and this is kind of like, it's been, I think this is the right word. It's been in the zeitgeist recently.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of this person who works remote and just travels the world, making money, working remotely. And it's just like, man, I wish I could do that. Right?
Yeah.
And then he breaks it down. And you realize that it's not as cool as it sounds.
Right.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe you have some people that's sick. But look, viewed from a different perspective, you're in some part of the world and you're thinking about your buddy and you give them a call and they don't answer because they're asleep. And it's the middle of the week and they're getting ready they're thinking about work. They're sleeping, but it's like for them, it's like, I'm going to work, and I'm getting off at this time and then I'm going to go to this recreational thing. And meanwhile, you're over here with this awesome view or whatever, but you're just completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're moving around so much and traveling the world and visiting, you never develop a connection with anybody. And so part of the benefit of back in the day when it's like everybody would go to church, shared religion, it's like every Sunday for the most part, most people, right? And we have these customs and we're all used to it, and we all hate that group of people and we all love this group of people, and this is how you address this person, right? It's all this shared like routine, shared language. We all understand each other in a sense, right? And it's like, oh, we all go to work, we all do this, right? And then you end up developing relationships with people and connection, and it feels good. And it's like, yeah, dude, it's my group and this and that. But when you're somebody who's constantly living nomadically, explorer, then you can't develop that connection. And something that's talking about, like, how does this tie into me? Sure, there's that digital nomad dream that dies, right? It's like, okay, that's not real for me. It didn't seem like it, right? Mm-hmm. I'd prefer to be with connection with certain people. So there's that. But then there's also like, oh, I've been doing some of that myself. In my pursuit of knowledge and of all there is to know in the world and whatever, I've what's the word? When you're like an outsider, when you ostracized maybe? Ostracized.
Yeah.
Ostracize myself from the people I care about.
Yeah.
And I've chosen to think like, oh, what you're saying is not interesting to me because I'm thinking about this other higher level shit. I've already gone past, your 9 to 5. I'm thinking about reincarnation, not to just dog on you, but it's like, absolutely. I get that, dude. I feel that.
Right.
That's how I feel, where it's like, yeah, no, I'm on this higher level shit. Like,
yeah,
you're thinking about who's going to win the presidency.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about some other thing in the future. And like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But then sometimes, I find myself feeling just lack of connection sometimes because of that. And so I think that's what that chapter is about. Like, and kind of the whole book ties back in where it's like just like surrendering to your limitations,
right?
And as a human, also,
yeah,
it's like it seems like we're social, and it seems like those routines are good for you. And so something I got. So tying that into your life, I guess, and
yeah, when you have that mindset that what you have isn't enough because you want something else, any other pasture is going to look green. Like, oh man, if I could just work from home and just live in a van, I'd be so happy. Because that's so different than what I'm doing now. And I know I'm not content with what I'm doing now. So if I had that over there, I'd definitely be happy.
Look how happy those guys look.
Yeah.
Look how hot his wife is. Like in their van together, and
Yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe if I did that, I'd get a hot wife like that. That's what I think.
Absolutely.
That goes through my mind.
That thought crosses our mind before we even hear it. You know what I mean? We don't even detect that we've accepted that as a truth in that moment. Oh, I'd have a hot wife if I lived in a van.
Yeah.
Like that thought really implants itself in your head in that moment before you even notice it.
You're like, I'd have a hot wife. I'd finally.
And if I had a hot wife, I'd be happy.
Oh, dude, it'd be the best. Like I'd stop watching porn because she'd just be sucking my dick all the time. It'd be awesome.
Literally 24/7. And so,
Just whenever I wanted.
All my bad habits would vanish because of how satisfied I would be by this person who married me because I lived in a van.
Because I lived in a van and I was just a sick adventurer. You know? But little do you know that to be a sick adventurer, you have to say no to so many things.
Yeah.
Like if you fully become that guy, there's a lot of stuff that you're saying no to. You're like that
Big
guy.
time.
He works out a certain amount of times. He eats certain things. He doesn't need other things.
Yeah.
You know, he goes to certain places and focuses. Like that guy might be on a trail for weeks, like trying to accomplish something or something. You know, it's like
right.
And maybe their relationship isn't even that good, or maybe it is, but it's not the relationship that you would want. You know, maybe they're happy in their relationship, but it's like if you were with that girl, you'd be like, like I'm liking something. So it gets back to the point. Like, I've heard this also in the podcast where, like, Alex Ford Mosley said the other day that when he was poor, which he's this business guru guy and rich, really, like multimillionaire, hundreds of millions, something like that, maybe. He said that when he was poor, working minimum wage, you know, he wanted more, but at the same time, he was like, it's not that bad. He was having fun, you know? Now that he's a multimillionaire, same deal. Feels the same. And basically he has all this money, he has this ability to do these things and do these trips and whatever. Still feels the same. Joe Rogan said something similar. How when he got this deal with Disney, he made a bunch of money, and
Spotify?
No, Disney. Like this is back in the day. He was in his early 20s.
Yeah.
He got a deal with Disney, and I think they paid him like maybe, I don't know if it was $60,000 or maybe something like that. It was like 60 to like 200,000, something like that. And for back then, it was a lot of money, right? Minimum wage probably like $1, $2, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And he's like sick, and he got this sick apartment in New York or something like that, or maybe it was LA. Sweet apartment. He's like, oh my God, I'm a baller. And then after hanging out, he was just like, dude, this is just like my other crib that I had when I was poor. Like,
yeah.
It's just a house. It's just this is just where I chill.
Yeah.
Like this TV, this is just where I chill and watch the TV. It doesn't matter that it's that much bigger.
Yeah.
And so there's that pattern. It kind of seems there's something to like, you have to be happy with what you have. For God has said, I will never leave you.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Did Paul say that or did Jesus say that? Do you know?
I don't know.
One of them said that, dude. One of them guys in the Bible said it.
Yeah.
Be happy with what you have.
Yeah.
For God has said, I will never leave you.
J. Cole said that too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
always gonna be a bitch that's badder out there on the tours, but you ain't never gonna be happy till you love yours.
Yo.
It rhymes when he says it.
Yeah. No, J. Cole didn't say the same thing, but he said the same thing.
Right.
So that's basically, that's the point of that chapter, in a sense.
I think it was Paul that said, always gonna be a bitch.
Always gonna be a bitch better than yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really is the wisdom, the unlock from this book, that you are content when you're content saying no to many, many things. And then you have the freedom to embrace your finitude and enjoy the little thing that you do have.
Yeah, there seems to be this theme among all these people who are searching for peace.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like accomplishing, where it's like this sense of like you don't have to do anything. Like, I get the sense that it's I wonder, I don't even know what I'm saying when I say this, but is it like a soul shift? You know, like, how do we explain it? You know, because I don't think it means stop doing whatever you're doing. You know, I don't think it means like, I don't think it means that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it means become vegetarian, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be that like the Bible, Jesus, and they talk, like I think Paul talks about how to the saints all is good, something like that, and talking about how you have your Gentile friend who's eating pork, right? But that's not clean. but to be like, dude, like, doesn't matter. Like, it's all right. Like, you don't think it's bad? Cool. I won't eat it, but you can eat it. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like that vibe, I wonder what that is. And maybe it's a surrendering of being like, I'm not sovereign. Like, I don't, is that the right word? Like, I'm not the guy who's going to judge you. You know, like letting go of that, letting go of like what's my point? What's my purpose for being here? Right? Letting go of that question. It's like, you're not going to have the answer. You know, I don't think. It's like, am I saved? Right? Like, that's the question that really bugs me when Christians ask that.
Yeah.
Is my friend saved? It's like, dude, why are we talking about this? None of us know. You know, like, the guy who's going to say yes or no is not here. Not here with us right now, like in our face, like, oh yeah, let me tell you. You know, and it seems like, yeah, like Jesus never pointed to that. It seemed like he was always pointed. I don't know. There's like this vibe, dude. And I try to, like, Peterson talks about practicing to live in that vibe, like to live in that balance. He calls it a balance between chaos and order, right? To practice walking the line, right? The what is it? The Taoists, the black fish and the white fish or whatever, and like living in the middle.
But Jordan Peterson does advocate for accomplishing something meaningful enough to justify your existence. And that runs counter to what we're talking about. Because we're talking about the fact that you're most effective when, instead of trying to justify yourself by accomplishing something, you're just grateful for the little that you have, which frees you up to do what you're best at. Because if you really relax, why would you not do anything? Why would you not just do what you're best at?
When you say being grateful for the little what you have instead of trying to justify your existence, right?
Yeah.
Something feels off about that, right?
Like, something feels incorrect about that?
Incorrect.
Yeah.
Off.
Well, if your goal is to justify your existence, then your goal is really to justify, you're setting yourself up as an individual to be the judge of whether you're valid or not. Then you're setting yourself an objective, and then you're telling yourself that if you meet that objective, you will put a stamp on yourself then after you meet that objective that says valid. So now, you're setting yourself up as the judge of yourself.
I feel like what's wrong is the framing. I'm seeing it the way I interpreted that. What you just pointed out about Peterson was that there must be something to justify why you're here, like some meaningful thing, so that when you die, it's like, hey, that guy did something meaningful, right? Is that what you were saying about, like, that Peterson said that? Is like, so that when you're dead, it's like, oh, he did something meaningful. Or
I think Peterson
kind of the claim that we had right now.
Yes, Peterson thinks that way, and he also specifically says that it's a good idea to think about what you're going to accomplish in your life that could justify your existence.
Well,
he specifically advocates that. I think that's completely wrong.
So for whatever reason, it's like when he says it, I'm like, nice, Peterson. I love you, man.
I know. Same here.
But I think the overarching thing that came to my mind that I've heard Peterson talk about, but also Jesus talks about, is Jesus tells a parable about being a good steward. He doesn't say be a good steward so that you'll have something meaningful at the end of your life, like so you'll have a good nest egg by the time you die, so that you'll leave something for your children, you know. And Peterson also says something like that too, where he says, "Seek truth," because when you seek the truth, your life is gonna be the most adventurous life that you can have. So I think Jesus and Jordan share that, where they're not like, let's pretend that doesn't exist. That idea of Jordan saying, like, that your life has to mean, like, you have to produce something of meaning by the end of your life, right? Instead, I'd like to focus on the idea of not that, but more align yourself with truth, right? And like Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all of these things will be added unto you.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that's like, hustle culture, right? And like, let's build shit. Because he didn't build an army or anything. You know, it's like, no, but more just line yourself with the truth. And which I think takes into account the book where it's like we have these arbitrary ways of measuring our worth and our meaning. When all these religions and stuff seem to be pointing how that's not the point. And like people talk about, oh, be present, right? And I like to think about it from a behavioral standpoint. Like, what is someone who's present? How do they behave, right? And so part of me is like, okay, it's like seek the truth. Jesus is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. You know, Jordan says seek the truth. He's a smart guy. You know, it's like, okay, I respect him. Okay, truth. Well, I think I should go talk to Travis about these books that I read because I think it'd be good for me to regurgitate what I've read. Because Jordan said that it's good to do that. You know, like that's what I've heard. So it's like, okay, so that seems truthful. I'm going to go there. And then I've been working on speaking the truth because Jordan says, hey, tell the truth or at least don't lie. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes you don't know what the truth is. It's like, I don't really know what's true. So I'm just not going to lie. And by doing so, you're being truthful. Because you're exposing your inner workings and it's being like, this is where I'm at. Like, this is what I think is going on, but I'm not sure, you know? And by doing so, you're being more truthful. So I think it's about tapping into that notion, which I don't know if is that universal, do you think? Do you think that that's a thing that's outside of all of us that we all sense? Because like all the what is it, the postmodernists, right?
Yeah.
they I think one of the claims, as far as I understand, is like we come up with our own values, right? And those values don't exist outside of us. But it kind of feels, at least to me, it feels like truth exists outside of me, you know? And it feels like other people know that too, which is weird. Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah. To tie it back into the book, I think
the book's here. The book's right there.
I know.
No, I'm saying to tie it back into the book, there's the book. So and now I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Geographically speaking, I'm near the book.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. It's a tie-in.
The quote, seek first the kingdom and all things will be added to you, or the admonition to live in pursuit of truth. I think those are both pointing to the fact that if you can set aside your ideas and your concepts of what it would mean to accomplish something that would meaningfully justify your existence, if those can be set aside, and instead you can just focus on the main thing. The main thing could be called the truth. The main thing could be called the kingdom. It could be called oneness. It could be called the present moment. It could be called contentedness. It could be called reality. It could be called the perspective that's grounded in what's eternal. It could be called the balance between chaos and order. There's a lot of ways to point to it, but there's something central. There's something grounding. There's something balancing. There's something that is harmony. And if you can just be comfortable with that first, everything else works out. And so in terms of this book, if we can really to be comfortable with the fact that we're finite and we're limited is simultaneously to grasp the eternal, because it's to compare our finitude to something that contextualizes it. So that's to find the infinite, to go, that's fine. I'm just this one guy, just this one American creature on this floating rock doing this limited thing, and that's okay. That acceptance of your finitude is granted to you because you're looking at it from the perspective of the eternal. And so if you can find the eternal first, you can find the kingdom of God, the presence of reality first. If you can make truth your priority, then everything else goes fine. I do think sometimes Peterson flips it around and says, you should come up with the one thing that if accomplished would justify your existence and then pursue it because then you would win because life is a battle. I think he frames it that way a lot.
Yeah.
And stresses himself and a lot of us out by thinking that way.
Yeah.
But he also says the other thing, which is seek the truth first and then take the adventure. Your life is such an adventure if you're in pursuit of truth. Or as Jesus says, all things, and I would add to try to clarify, all things that you actually want will be given to you if you seek first the kingdom. So I think that's what this book is getting onto. And I think that's my attempt to link everything that you just said back into the book.
Let me think about that. If we have time. Do we have time to think about it?
Up to you. It's your episode.
Yeah, let me think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, how does that tie into? How does the spirit of truth, seeking the spirit of truth? Well, one way it ties into the book is that 4,000 weeks is about the average lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think like half of that is spent sleeping. And I think the book, that I think he goes through a bunch of perspective points where it's like, you really don't have that much time. And I think that's seeking truth, because instead of living in this lie of like, I have to beat him, like him being someone else, right? I have to beat them. I have to get this. I have to make sure that by the end of my life, I've made something meaningful. And it's like, but who's judging that, right? It's like, who's judging that the life's meaningful? And then it's like you said, that causes me stress, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Even the idea of like, oh, I just need to seek truth. And so now I'm like, seek truth. Seek truth. Like, line yourself with the spirit of truth. And it's like, that's stressing me out.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Just that idea of like, don't slip off. Like, no, you have to line yourself up with truth.
Mm-hmm.
That stresses me out. You know?
Okay.
It's like, but to tie it back, like the book, it's talking about, he's trying to get the reader to be like, hey, I don't have as much time as I thought I did. And I'm not capable to do as many things as I thought I was going to be able to do. And shit happens, you know, but the thing is that shit happens to everybody. So that's just part of existence, is you making plans, being like, I'm going to accomplish this and this and this, and with this person. And then all of a sudden, like, stuff gets popped out of place. It's like, oh, I can't do that anymore because they died, or because the market, or because I don't care about it anymore, you know, or whatever. And it's just like, that's just how it is. That's how it is. You want to look at another chapter, or you want to look at another?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Yes?
I do.
Cool.
I feel energized right now, but
Great.
I also, in my codependency, don't want to keep you guys here, which is a lie.
I could do another 15 minutes.
Okay.
Then I'm going to start getting tired.
Let's do that, dude.
The watermelon problem. That's a weird chapter name. What does that mean?
Watermelon problem.
What's the problem with watermelon?
I don't know. Maybe I should skim it. Maybe that didn't leave an impact.
Well, nice try, Oliver Burkeman.
Yeah, nice
with
try.
Your catchy title.
Don't remember.
Shit. What does it mean to stay on the bus?
No idea. This is like a pop quiz.
What's the, it's supposed to be conversation starters, but it's coming off definitely more like a pop quiz. I don't know, because I'm looking through the chapter titles, and I can easily imagine how they're all alluding to the core idea that we've been dancing around throughout this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You think maybe that's it?
It feels like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Well, then say night school.
Night school.
Night school.